In a small village nestled between lush green hills and flowing rivers, there lived a man named Arjun. Life had always been kind to him, with a loving family, good health, and a prosperous business. But as the years went by, fate dealt Arjun a series of cruel blows. His wife passed away unexpectedly, his business crumbled due to unforeseen circumstances, and he found himself alone, burdened by grief and despair. Arjun's once vibrant spirit had withered away, leaving him a shadow of his former self. He wandered aimlessly through the village, his heart heavy with sorrow. No matter where he turned, he couldn't escape the pain that clung to him like a dark cloud. His friends tried to comfort him, but their words seemed hollow and meaningless. One day, hearing of Gautam Buddha's presence in a nearby village, Arjun decided to seek out the revered teacher. He had heard that Buddha possessed a profound wisdom that could soothe even the most troubled hearts. With a glimmer of hope, Arjun set out on a journey to find the enlightened one. After days of walking, Arjun finally reached the place where Buddha was staying. The serene atmosphere of the forest, the gentle rustling of leaves, and the sound of a distant stream calmed his weary soul. When Arjun arrived at the clearing where Buddha sat, he found the great teacher surrounded by disciples, all listening intently to his teachings. Arjun waited patiently until the session ended, then approached Buddha with folded hands and tearful eyes. "Venerable One," he began, his voice trembling, "I am lost in a sea of suffering. My life is filled with pain, and I can find no escape. Please, show me the way out of this misery." Buddha looked at Arjun with deep compassion and invited him to sit. "Tell me, my son," Buddha said softly, "what troubles you so?" Arjun poured out his heart, recounting the loss of his wife, the collapse of his business, and the unbearable loneliness that had overtaken his life. "I have nothing left," he concluded, "and I don't know how to go on." Buddha listened quietly, nodding in understanding. After a moment of silence, he spoke. "Arjun, your suffering is real, and I do not dismiss it. But let me tell you a story that may help you understand your pain and find a path forward." Arjun wiped his tears and listened intently as Buddha began his tale. "Long ago," Buddha said, "there was a young woman named Kisa Gautami who lived in a small village, much like yours. She was a kind and gentle soul, and she loved her only son more than anything in the world. But one day, her son fell ill and passed away, leaving Kisa Gautami devastated with grief. Unable to accept her son's death, Kisa Gautami carried his lifeless body from house to house, begging for someone to bring him back to life. The villagers, seeing her distress, could only offer their condolences, but Kisa Gautami refused to believe that her son was truly gone. One day, she met a wise elder who told her, "Go to Gautam Buddha, the enlightened one. He alone can help you." Desperate for hope, Kisa Gautami sought out Buddha and placed her son's body at his feet. "Please, Lord," she implored, "bring my son back to life." Buddha looked at her with great compassion and said, "Kisa Gautami, I can help you, but first, you must bring me a mustard seed." Relieved to have a task, Kisa Gautami asked, "Where shall I find this mustard seed?" Buddha replied, "Bring me a mustard seed from a household where no one has ever died." Filled with renewed hope, Kisa Gautami set out on her mission. She went from house to house, asking for a mustard seed. But every home she visited had experienced the loss of a loved one. Some had lost a parent, others a spouse, and many had lost children. In each house, she was reminded that death was a part of life and that everyone suffered in their own way. As the day went on, Kisa Gautami's sorrow began to transform. She realized that her pain was not unique, and that every person she met had faced loss and grief. The weight of her own suffering lightened as she understood that death was a natural part of existence. Finally, she returned to Buddha empty-handed, but with a newfound understanding. She bowed before him and said, "I have not found the mustard seed, but I have found peace. I see now that death comes to us all, and I must learn to accept it." Buddha smiled gently and said, "You have understood, Kisa Gautami. Grief and loss are a part of life, but when we accept this truth, we can find the strength to move forward." As Buddha finished the story, Arjun sat in silence, absorbing the profound lesson. He realized that, like Kisa Gautami, he had been clinging to his pain, unable to see beyond his own suffering. He had believed that his misery was unique, but now he understood that suffering was a shared human experience. With tears of relief streaming down his face, Arjun bowed deeply to Buddha. "Thank you, Venerable One," he said, his voice filled with gratitude. "I see now that my suffering, though great, is not insurmountable. I will strive to accept the pain and find peace within myself." Buddha nodded and said, "Remember, Arjun, suffering is a part of life, but so is joy. Embrace both, and you will find balance. Let go of your attachment to the past, and live fully in the present moment." Arjun left the forest that day with a lighter heart and a renewed sense of purpose. He returned to his village and began to rebuild his life, not by erasing the pain of his losses, but by accepting them and finding meaning in the present. And so, Arjun's story became one of transformation, guided by the timeless wisdom of Gautam Buddha. He learned that while suffering is inevitable, it is also the doorway to deeper understanding and inner peace.